Illuminati wants your mind, soul, and your body. Secret society is trying to keep their eye on me. Disguised as these celebrities that quietly devising the plan to take over the world. And this starts with your mind, you see.
Welcome back to Lamp Oil Stock, an Israelite channel where we look at issues from an Israelite point of view. And our continuing series, the Red Letter Bible series, part 6. What are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20.
17 through 20.
Right.
Okay.
Verse 17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
18.
For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
19.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
And 20.
For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Okay. All right. So this is the fourth part, or third part, of this same sermon that we've been going through. And this is going to add another aspect. So first we talked about the character of a believer.
Right.
And then we talked about the outward appearance.
And what they're supposed to be doing.
Right, and what they're supposed to be doing.
Uh-huh.
Now we're talking about how they do it, I guess might be the way to say it. Because we're talking about following the law.
Right. We're talking about following the law, and Christ is trying to let people know what his purpose is for being here.
Right.
Right. So verse 17 says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not coming to destroy, but to fulfill.
Right.
So we have to look at what he says when he says, I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So what exactly is it that Christ came to fulfill? Well, if you look at Hosea 9, and I'm not going to read all of these different places. So if you look at Hosea 9, it's talking about Israel, and it's talking about Ephraim. It's specifically, I think, it's talking about how these people had just gone off, way off. They were doing all types of evil things, and yet they were still doing sacrifices and sin offerings. They felt like there was a way to bypass the law, I guess.
Yeah, now we're talking about rule lawyering here. So one of the rules was if a sin is committed, there is a particular sacrifice that is supposed to happen to take care of that, to cover that sin.
Right, right.
So what these people are doing, and this is an oversimplification, is, let me give you an example. So I know that I know what I want to do. I've decided I'm going to sin tomorrow. So I'm just going to gather my sacrifice together, do my sin, and then do the sacrifice.
Right, right.
And that really misses the point. That's like saying I know that I'm going to be speeding tomorrow, so I'm just going to get my $60 together to pay my speeding ticket.
Yeah, we wish a speeding ticket was $60.
True, but that's really the idea here is the law. One of the ideas with the law is it is supposed to help sculpt you as a person. It is not a check in a box.
Right, right. So people were using it, the sacrifice, the sin sacrifice, and just a horrible way. And God just didn't care because it wasn't there for people to sin on purpose.
Exactly.
And the Bible at some point says that if you sin willfully, there is no sacrifice for you. So it's supposed to be, I messed up accidentally, and here I'm going to do this sin offering or this sacrifice in order to make up for it. But of course, we went all off. And so God said, I'm just not going to accept your sacrifices anymore. And I'm going to put all of that sin, I'm going to make it stick to you.
Right.
And so that brought us into a peril, because what do we do if in the beginning of the book it says that I have to sacrifice an animal for my sin? How do I get cleansed? How do I get back right with the Most High? If the Most High says, well, since they misused it, I'm taking it away.
Right.
So if you look at Isaiah 53, then we go to the prophecy of Christ being brought into the world, and that he is going to be an offering for sin.
What verse is that?
If you go to Isaiah 53 verse 10, it says, Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand.
Okay.
So if we go to Isaiah 53, it is a what is it? A prophecy
Right.
of Christ coming and being the sin offering.
With you. Now, I want to look at this line also. Think not. This is the same line that we were starting off with. Matthew 5 and 17. Think not that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets.
Right.
Now, for some reason, a lot of people believe that Christ either created a new religion or moved the old religion into something, or transformed the old religion into something new.
Right.
And he specifically says in this line, that's not what's happening.
Right. He says that he didn't come to do away what has been, but he's just coming to fulfill a prophecy that was given, and to be the fulfillment of the sin offering in order to bring the nation back to the Most High.
Right. Now, let's hit it this way. So I want to kind of put it another way here. So if we think about laws in the United States, right? So I'll give you a simple one. Do not steal.
Right.
Do not steal. All right. So I go to Walmart and I don't steal anything. I buy all the things that I get at the Walmart and I come back, right? So I have fulfilled the law, right? Because the law was do not steal. I have fulfilled it.
Right.
So does that mean anybody after me can now steal?
No.
Why not? I fulfilled it.
Because that only makes sense to the reprobate.
Okay. I'm bringing this one up because so many people seem to say, well, Christ fulfilled the law that's listed in the Old Testament. He did all of the things. He lived by the law, and he was perfect in it. He did all the things that were in it. So therefore, we don't have to do it anymore.
Right, but if we continue to read verse 18, he explains himself further. He says, "For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled." So he's saying that everything that God has said is and always will be until every prophecy, everything that God has spoken has been fulfilled. So he's saying he came to, in 17, he's saying that he's coming to fulfill the law. Well, which law is he fulfilling?
Right.
Well, the one from Isaiah says that he's going to be the sin offering. He came to be a sin offering.
Right.
So that's the law that he's fulfilling. He's not fulfilling all the laws. Because,
I mean, all the prophecies.
right. He's not fulfilling all the prophecies.
Right. Because there's other prophecies, and there's other prophecies about him. But there's also prophecies about
Other things.
Other things. And until everything, in the second line, until everything is fulfilled, nothing, and until heaven and earth passeth away.
Right.
You know, so we still have earth.
And we still have heaven.
Right, so the law is still here. The law is still here.
So then he goes on in verse 19 and says, "Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom in heaven." So he goes on to explain that if you break even the smallest, whatever the smallest law is, you shall be, and if you break it and teach people to do so. And I tell people, I tell my children that if they go out and they're drunk and God says you can't be a drunkard, then you're teaching people that you think it's okay to be drunk.
Right.
So if you teach them by word of mouth, or if you teach them by action, then you are going to be called least in the kingdom. But then it says, "Whoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." So whosoever shall do the law and teach the law shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And why would he say that if nobody had to pay attention to the law because he died?
Right, exactly. Exactly. And now, this is another thing. I feel like in a lot of churches, people tend to try to do the least that they possibly can. And by saying, "Oh, well, look, here it says, if whoever therefore shall break one law can still get in, because it says that if they could be the least in the kingdom, so they could still get in as far as some people are concerned." That's not your goal. I mean, the actual goal is to try and follow the Most High as much as possible, trying to do the actual right thing, not the negative of just trying to get in. That's not how this works.
You also have to follow it up with verse 20, and I think this brings it home, or should at least bring it home for a lot of people. It says, "For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven." And we know that if we look at the scribes and Pharisees, they were telling people the law, but they weren't actually living the law the way that they should. They were adding to and taking away. They were doing all types of evil things in the church behind closed doors.
Right.
And so for you to walk around, or for people to walk around and say, "Well, I don't have to follow the laws because Christ fulfilled them," then your righteousness is not exceeding that of the scribes and Pharisees, and therefore there's no way in hell you're going to make it into the kingdom of heaven.
Exactly. But there are so many churches today, so many places that simply say, all you have to do is, I guess they say it this way, all you have to do is follow Christ and just love him.
Believe in Christ died for your sins, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. And I even when I was a Christian, I had big issues with that. I didn't understand how Christ could go through so much, and all I had to do was believe that he did that, and it didn't matter what I did, I was still good.
Yeah,
So,
see, and you know, and it's specific. It's not like Christ doesn't literally lay it out here, saying that there is a law. He did not change it, and you should be doing it.
right.
I mean, it's laid out right here.
If you look in Deuteronomy, there's a test on how to tell a prophet, and it says that if someone comes and changes the law, you should kill that person because he is not from the Most High. So if Christ had come and changed the law, he would not be a savior.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, this one is so important. I mean, this is incredibly important because there's a huge amount of. Oh, let me do something else too. There's a lot of people that say, well, there is a law, there's 10 parts to it, and that's it. And I understand why they do that, because the 10 commandments are listed in one part. But there's more to it. There's more throughout the Bible. The thought is that as a believer, you will be reading and trying to understand everything that's going on.
I would also like to reiterate the fact that we do not worship Christ. Christ is not God.
Right.
If you read the 53 verse 1, it says,
Wait.
I'm sorry, Isaiah 53 verse 1, it says, who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? I believe that Christ is the person sent by the Most High to fulfill a task, that he is being, the Most High sent him just like he sent Moses before him, and that he is using Christ because there's a parable where Christ, I believe it's Christ gives a parable where he's talking about a man had a vineyard and he sent his son to go do things.
Well, we'll get to it. If Christ is the one who said it, we will get there. You know, it'll be one of the things that he said, so we'll have to cover it. But I think I know what parable you're talking about, but it's much later. It's much later.
Right, and I'm not even sure if it's in Matthew.
Yeah, we'll try to get to it. I'll look it up. We'll try to look it up. See if I have it for you next time. I know what you're talking about. This Vineyard Parable. I know what you mean, but I'm not sure right offhand.
You know, but anyway, he sends his son to check on the vineyard or whatever, and so Christ is coming, and him and God are one in the sense that Christ is doing what God wants him to do. He's acting on God's behalf.
Can I give you a better one that I can
Okay.
think of right offhand? There is a soldier later on. Christ is healing people in a square. This is a little bit later on, and a soldier comes to him and says, "My servant is ill. You know, my servant is ill, and can you please heal him?" And Christ says, "Okay, take me there." Right? And the guy says, "No, you don't need to come, because being a person in charge of other people, when I say do something, I have people who do it. And when I say to do this, it is done. And I know if you just say do this, it will happen." Okay? And it's the same concept. The Most High has said this is what needs to happen and has sent Christ to do it.
Right. So I said before, I admire Christ, and I'm thankful that the Most High sent him to do what he did, but he is not the Most High, and I don't want anybody to think that I worship Christ.
Now, see, this is going to come up later because we're going to have the same conversation again later on. When Christ is on the cross and he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Right.
And so many people say, well, Christ and God are the same.
And Christ was talking to himself.
Who's he talking to? This doesn't make any sense. It makes no logical sense. So, once we'll end up talking about this more than once. This seems to be a stumbling block for a lot of modern churches because Christ, in that role of being the sin sacrifice, people just want to ascribe everything to Christ.
Right, and because we're doing this series, and it's talking about what Christ said, and I just don't want anybody to misinterpret what we're doing and put it off on some sort of God worship.
You mean Christ worship?
Yeah, because Christ never told you to worship him.
Right. I mean, we are. I don't know why I have to explain this, but we are monotheist. We believe there is only one God. That's it. And he is God the Father. That's it. Everything else is something else.
But I also don't like it when it says Lord for Christ, because in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it calls God Lord, and in the New Testament, it'll say Lord for Christ, and I think that confuses a lot of people. I know as a Christian, when I was younger, it confused me.
Right.
And when they would read from the Bible, because I didn't really understand Old Testament, New Testament, God, Christ, and I didn't understand when they said Lord, who they were speaking about.
Right.
So I understand what the title means and that it could refer to both of them, but it's just, like I said, it's just a way of confusing the two, I think.
Right. Well, this is the thing. We don't live in a kingship, in a monarchy any longer.
Right.
All right. And people don't understand a representative for. They don't get a representative for. And what I mean by that is, if someone is king and they send someone to do something for them, they're doing it in their name, and when you ask who did it, you would say the king did it, even though they didn't physically do each one of the steps.
Right. But I think this is all part of confusing people and bringing that confusion into the land so that people mess up or fall off, and Satan is working, and we have to fight against his working.
Right. And I want to say this again. Read Matthew yourself. Sit down and read it. Okay? And work your way through it. To me, it's very clear that Christ and the Most High are not the same being. Christ and the Most High are not the same being. But please, read it so you can see this. As I said, Christ talks to the Father in multiple places. And he's not talking to himself. He's not talking to himself. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so guys, thank you all so very much for hanging out with us again and listening to another part of Christ's Word. If you have a question or a comment, please leave it down there and let us see it. Leave us a like.
Or a dislike.
or any sort of comment. Those things are all greatly appreciative.
Subscribe.
Oh, man, I keep forgetting to do that. Yes, please hit the subscribe button and let us know that you're out there. So, do you have anything else?
Counted the cost long time ago. I'm just waiting for the Lord to say it's time to go. Let's work. The only hope is in these